G'day Year 11 and welcome to another YouTube lesson. Today we're going to be taking a look at the last and the third management approach. Again, a little bit of revision in terms of the management approaches. What was the first one that we looked at? It's a classical scientific approach. Well done. And there's 5 things that you need to be able to remember from the syllabus, we won't go through now, to make sure that you can properly explain that to your marker. What was the second approach to management that we looked at? And if you said the behavioural approach to management, again, well done. Likewise, there's another 5 ways to be able to clearly explain that to your HSC marker, and they're from the syllabus. You need to make sure you're using the language of that syllabus. Now, this one today we're going to be looking at is called the contingency approach. And from the syllabus it says adapting to changing circumstances. So that's exactly what it does. The classical scientific approach to management is old school. You know, born in the 50s and so on. Through the 90s, they thought there's got to be a better way. And the behavioural approach came through. But more recently, there's this understanding that neither's perfect on their own, and a good mixture is probably best. And sometimes, old school classical scientific approach has some merits. But many other times, behavioural approach is more useful. And it's this amalgamation, this joining together of the classical scientific and the behavioural approach to management gave birth, I suppose, to the contingency approach to management. You adapt to changing circumstances. Sometimes classical scientific is most appropriate. Sometimes behavioural management is most appropriate. The contingency approach to management, it stresses the need for flexibility and the adaptation of management practices and ideas to suit changing circumstances. Now, contingency theorists, that's dudes and chicks that come up with these wonderful management approaches they force me to teach you and you to learn. They point out to managers that no 2 situations are absolutely identical. That's true. Each situation therefore requires its own unique solution. An example would be, you may have used a particular strategy to complete a task for an assignment. Although this strategy may have been quite successful for task A, another assessment task required a different approach. One might have been a test, task B might have been an essay that you need to do, or a research project. Contingency theorists stress that the traditional classical scientific approach to management was not necessarily wrong, and that's true. You know, I like to hear that because there are some aspects sometimes of that which are of use. But behavioural, again, is very, very good most of the time. And it probably is that using each of those approaches at certain points in time that yields the best results. And that's what the contingency approach is about. You should use, in explaining and describing the contingency approach, the different aspects, the different parts of the behavioural approach and the different aspects and parts of the classical science approach from the syllabus to be able to explain how there is both of those. Now, adapting to change in circumstances. The contingency approach therefore states that managers must extract the most useful ideas and practices from a wide range to best suit their business's present requirements. It stresses that an appropriate management response to one set of circumstances may be quite inappropriate for another. What was really good for this particular problem or situation that required a behavioural approach will not work so well for this situation where a classical scientific approach may be better. To adopt this approach, managers must sample all past and present ideas on offer and A whole range, not just behavioural, not just classical scientific. There's a political approach, there's a whole range of approaches. This is referred to as the smorgasbord approach. Whatever suits the situation that will probably best yield the best result is what they take a look at. Now, some of the things that help describe the contingency approach in terms of organisation, allocation of tasks to staff. You have flexibility and adaptation of a variety of ideas and principles from a range of theories, mean that a range of options will be pursued to suit the business's best requirement. In terms of organisational structure of the contingency approach, as I said earlier, maybe for certain parts of your business, maybe the finance department, the hierarchy might be best from a classical scientific approach. Or in terms of HR, perhaps it might be better to use more of a flatter or teams-based hierarchical or lack of hierarchical organisational structure. So to have no hierarchy or very limited. In terms of levels of management, it depends on the business's requirements. That is the nature of operations and the ability of employees. So should you have in a school principals, deputies, head teachers and teachers? Should you just have a principal and more teachers? Get rid of head teachers and deputies. Maybe get rid of deputies, have head teachers, principal head teachers and teachers, or whatever. Okay, so it depends on the particular organisation at that particular point in time. Management style, again we're talking about leadership style. Should we have for that a democratic / participative style, or should we adopt the old school autocratic style? Once again, not surprisingly, depends on which situation best suits the needs of the business at that point in time. All right, guys, thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.